Hey, what's up, Ignition? We're going to try something a little bit different tonight. Instead of hearing from Boz or Ashley or myself, we asked some of our awesome and amazing leaders if they would be willing to share a little bit about what they've seen God do in their lives recently. So, check it out.
Todd Elgren, Testimony, Take 36. More on that in a minute. Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not slumber nor sleep. He will keep you from evil. He will keep your life. He will keep your going out and your coming in from this day forth and forevermore. And the Lord faithfully did that for my father for 98 years. This was one of his favorite psalms, and he quoted it often. And we read it at his funeral back in January. The truths in this psalm give me hope, they give me confidence, and they give me the peace to go through the hardships in life, the losses in life, the loss of a father, a mother, and a brother. Take 36, 36 takes on this video, not exactly, but that was how old I was in 1998 when God had some changes in store for my life. In the mid-90s, I went through a divorce, led a bachelor's life for a few years and got to do a lot of things I enjoy doing. Played a lot of golf, got to go hunting and fishing whenever I really wanted to, but there was some emptiness to that and I felt it. And then one day when I was in my parents' house, I noticed my dad's Daily Bread devotional sitting there on his vanity. The heading on it said, Lord, make my life count. And that hit me hard, hit me in the heart, and I knew my life wasn't counting for really anybody but myself. But through hardships, through losses, God is faithful as this beautiful morning sunrise, and He had good things planned for me. You know, in Romans 8:28 it says, and we know for those who love God, everything works together for good. In 1998, I met my wife, Amy. Her son, Connor, and her son, Jesse, were 4 and 2 at the time. We were then married in 2000, and Drake was born in 2001. And that was a lot of change for the best. I got to do a lot of great things with those young men. We had a lot of great times together and still do. God has good plans in store for all of us. In '98, my niece asked me to sing in her wedding, and that was quite a shock. I hadn't done any singing in public for many years, since I was a child in the Bill Riley talent show. But that opened up doors to get on a worship team at Des Moines Fellowship Church, and I've got to sing on a worship team ever since. Thankful God gave me that gift, and now I get to use it to His glory. Looking forward to getting to do that at Hope soon. So, again, God is faithful. So here's my advice for you, Ignition. Don't take 36 years to take hold of what God has for you. He will let us wander, but He won't lose track of us. So take hold of the good things He has. Stay connected to the church. And, you know, I just wish all the best for you guys in your future, prosperity and success, and God's blessing upon your life. You know, He will keep your life. He will keep your going out and your coming in, just like He did for my dad, and just like He's done for me. As faithful as the morning sunrise. Just a beautiful day ahead, and more days ahead with God's goodness. So see you around Hope.
Hi Ignition, my name's Ariel, and I am one of the senior leaders this year. So when Pete asked some of the leaders if they would share their testimony or kind of just stories of God at work in their lives, I'll be honest, I definitely felt like, oh, I'll let some other leaders do that. My story's not important enough. I don't need to share my story. For a long time, I've struggled with feeling like my story is just too average and not important enough to share, or not worthy of being shared, or that no one really is going to be interested enough to hear it. I grew up in the church, and I didn't have like one moment where I was going this one direction, and then I like one day just decided I'm not going to do that anymore, and I'm going to totally turn my life around. But as I've thought about that and reflected on that, I have really come to a place to know that those things are lies, and that the story that God has written in my life, he wrote that for a purpose. And so yeah, I just want to tell you that if that's your story too, if you feel like you're just kind of average and you've grown up in the church, I just want to encourage you too that God is writing your story in a specific way and for a purpose. Like I said, I grew up in the church. The particular church that I grew up in put a pretty big emphasis on religion, more so as like a to-do list, and you check off that you went to church on Sunday, and you check off that you went through this certain religious class, and you check off that you've met these different milestones at certain ages. And that didn't necessarily play a very positive role in my life. It just kind of taught me to check the boxes, and didn't really teach me about a personal relationship with Jesus at all. On the flip side, the church that I grew up in definitely emphasized the holiness of God, and what it looks like to have a healthy fear of the Lord, and reverence for God. And so I really appreciate that I grew up with that kind of respect for God. And then when I was in high school, I started attending a youth group with my friends that wasn't at the church that I attended. And this youth group played a huge role in my faith journey. And the people there, I could tell that going to church wasn't just a checkbox item for them, and it was something that they wanted to do. And I could see that they were just alive in Jesus, and that Jesus was living in them and working through them. And not that Jesus wasn't in the other church that I was in, but there's just something different about this youth group that I was going to. And so that played a huge role in my faith walk, and that's really where I started to have a personal relationship with Jesus, and made it something for me instead of just going along with what my family was doing. And then from there, God just really captured my heart and took hold of me, and I decided from that point that I wanted to be living for God instead of living for myself, and that's the direction that I was going to go. So for today, so what does that mean in my life today? I was reflecting on this as I was thinking about what I wanted to tell you guys, and as the more I thought about it, the more that I realized that Jesus means everything for my daily life. My life would not be anywhere near the same if I didn't have Jesus in my life. So a couple ways that I'll share with you. So one of those is it's community. So I feel like having a strong Christian community around me is super important. And not that I'm not friends with people who don't believe in Jesus, because I certainly am. I have friends who are not believers, and I think that's important too. But the people who are really my people in my life that I go to when I'm struggling, or that I just surround myself with like all the time, it's important for me that those people are believers, just because I want to be able to, if I'm struggling, I want to be able to go to someone and say, hey, like this is really hard for me right now, and I need you to be praying for me. And I need to be able to trust that they will be praying for me and along with me. And it's important for me too that I have people in my life who are going to encourage me and push me more towards Jesus instead of pushing me away from Jesus, and giving me advice that goes along with the Bible and goes along with where I want my life to go, instead of leading me in a different direction. In my marriage, my marriage would not look the same if Jesus weren't in my life. Like, marriage is not easy, and so it's something that if I didn't have the grace of Jesus in my life, then I wouldn't know how to extend that to my husband and to be able to love in a sacrificial way and in a way that's wanting good for someone else and not just for myself. Because Jesus is in my life and he is in Billy's life, we both have that love in us, and so we're able to pour that out. Because love's not just a feeling and a fairy tale forever. It's it's something that Jesus teaches us how to do and something that we have to work on all the time. How I raise my kids looks different because of Jesus. Of course, I want my kids to be respectful and kind and nice and loving, but I don't want them to be kind and nice and loving just for the sake of being good kids. My ultimate goal in parenting is to teach my kids to know Jesus, and hopefully that they will choose to love Jesus themselves.
Hey Ignition, my name's Nate Miller, and I'm a leader of 9th grade Ignition group. I was asked to share my testimony tonight, but instead, I want to share my favorite children's book with you, so here I go. Once upon a time, there was a wild little boy and a sweet little girl who lived very different lives. While the little girl focused on praying, the little boy focused on playing. The two grew up and went off to college, where their paths crossed while walking to class. They met and decided to go on a date. They had so much fun, they thought it was great. He showed her how to play, and she showed him how to pray, or at least she tried. He was a wild boy, but she loved him anyway. They fell in love and decided to marry, the sweet little girl and wild little boy, now a sweet young woman and wild big boy. Their life together was fun for a while, but she wished he'd grow up and he wanted to play, so the sweet young woman started to pray that the boy would grow up and change his ways, be a good husband, and learn to pray. Then God gave them children, a wonderful gift. The boy wanted to grow up, but not today. He continued to play, but got into trouble. Finally, he had it. The fun went away. He got on his knees and started to pray. He asked God to change him. He had a plan to be a good husband and daddy and man. The boy and young woman continued to pray, but nothing much changed from day to day. But then for some reason, when Jesus was ready, he sent down his angels to change the boy's ways. He spoke to the boy to make him a man. He spoke through the children so the boy would understand. He was ready to change, to be a good husband and daddy and man. Jesus answered their prayers. Their lives became great. He answered their prayers, but why did he wait? To finish his lessons of mercy and grace. Jesus used the sweet woman to teach the boy grace. With their children, he delivered his message face to face. And now, the sweet young woman who started to pray sits behind you in church today. Their children are there hearing a message, a sweet little boy and a wild little girl. And the wild little boy, he became a good husband and daddy and man. He's sitting right here sharing with you the lessons Jesus taught him. That was God's plan. A Bible verse that means a lot to me is Ephesians 2, verses 8 through 10. It says, God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do good things he planned for us long ago. I love this verse because it just reminds me that no matter what, it's never too late to do God's good work. And we're all going to make mistakes and mess up, but God is always there with open arms, ready to show you his love and grace and help to guide you through life.
Thank you, leaders, so much for sharing. It's amazing to hear all these different ways that God has moved and has changed and has formed our lives. Ignition, have a great week. We'll see you next week at the party. Woohoo! 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. We'll send a link out for the party. All right. See you next week.